So currently today, there's major challenges going on. I guess it's actually been going on for quite some time. I would say probably since the 20-year war ended, we've had a recruiting crisis. Now, I want to go back to like pre-war, let's say in the 90s, mid 90s, even late 90s. We started hitting more of like a larger youth group that was focused on education. So that was a major dominant buying motive. That and money, bonuses, getting a bonus or something of that nature. How did it shift?
So I came in the 90s.
Yeah,
right?
but the recruiting part, right?
Yeah, so the recruiting aspect for me, when I came in, they got me with the college bonus. So that was a good segue, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got me with a 2-year. So they did shorter enlistments, a little bit appetizing for a kid that failed out of college because I just wasn't doing the right thing. It was an easy way of saying, yeah, I'm just going to do 2 years. I'll get out and go back and get my degree. And, 26 years later, no. So, but they do. They get you with the I had a 2-year enlistment, $20,000 college bonus. And they call it a bonus, but I forget what the proper term was. And then within there, obviously, the retention NCOs are going to do their damnedest to keep you in. Progress at about 3, 4, 5 years, we get into the early 2000s and war starts to kick off. So then the demographic of people wanting to come in shifts. So you have normal people. When I say normal are the ones that want to get an education, make that money, understanding that they're probably going to train a little bit, might not have to go to war, they're playing the odds. Once war kicked off, the war junkies started coming out. This is just my opinion, but the way that I saw it is when the war kicks off and you have this other demographic that wants to come in, generally speaking, those individuals didn't meet the baseline standards to get in. And most of the stuff that we were starting to see was like criminal background, mental background, stuff that just, the Army could pick and choose at the time when we weren't in a state of war. So you started to see the standards were getting reduced. Like tattoos were looking a little bit different. You could have a conviction. I think it was probably harder for the recruiters.
Oh, it was rough. Don Fox was a commander during that time frame at Fort Benning, now Fort Moore, and through OSIT for infantry and stuff, and was talking to me at that time frame about the caliber of soldiers that were coming in, and he was like, "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe it."
Well, the caliber of civilian that was coming in.
Civilians, yeah.
It was a drill sergeant's job who honestly deployed too much. To turn a convict into a Cav Scout, what we called it, convict to a Cav Scout.
Yeah.
But this dude is 3 deployments in, been through the surge, and he's ready to rip someone's head off
But this
every
is
day.
the only difference between this one and the Vietnam War time frame was the Vietnam War. You had the draft going on. So then you had the guy that was standing before the judge that said, all right, you can either do, 3 years probation in prison or whatever.
There's a cadence to that, right?
We literally celebrate it.
Go to jail or go to war.
Yeah.
It was funny for me, like the Air Force didn't really adjust any of their recruiting standards. So I was very much, my first year, just completely isolated the Air Force. And when I deployed that second year, I then saw the entire DOD. Yeah. And then I kept seeing people with neck tattoos or hand tattoos.
Actual teardrops.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember thinking I'm confused. How did you get in? It was very weird for me because it took me 6 months and I was an honor grad, had all these things. And it was hard for me to even get in. And was athletic. Then I seen other people and I'm like, did we do the same thing?
It was a paradigm shift. And it's just, I think it's just societal, right? When you have the largest entity, which would be the Army as far as military service goes, and they're shifting standards, there are second and third order effects to that to other service lines. So people see the Army happen and the war junkies want to come in, standards get reduced. And there's some very smart athletic people that are like, I don't want to be a part of that. So when in non-wartime, maybe they would have gone to the Army. Now you have the more intelligent, more concerned about standard of life, standard of living. Now they're going to start going to the Air Force.
Right.
Air Force, and correct me if I'm wrong, Air Force I don't think ever really needed to recruit. Neither did the Marines.
They never did.
No.
They used to have a year-long waiting list.
Yeah, it was 6 months for me to get in, and that was because I signed up for EOD at the time, which that was 6 months was what do you want to call it, expedited.
Jeez.
Hurry up and wait.
Yeah. Expedited in the Army was Ready to go right now?
Yeah.
A 4180, the right signature on a 4187 could make anything happen in the Army.
Like, you look good. Let's go.
Yeah.
So the shifting of the people, we started losing quality to gain quantity, especially with the surge. You think about the surge, and we brought everybody in. And so you saw that quality of a soldier was coming in. And I'll use the term, they used to say, right, any unit that's combat ready is not inspection ready. Mm-hmm. Anybody that's inspection ready will not be combat ready. So you look at the post-Vietnam, we saw a little bit of indiscipline in Vietnam. We wanted to see a shift in how discipline worked and the way that we carried ourselves. So no more cigarettes and helmets. Now we got helmet covers and people are, starching uniforms. And then we get into wartime, uniforms are changing and we're not shining boots anymore. We're not doing
longer hair.
And that served its purpose. The standards, as long as you're meeting the military standard, close with, destroy the enemy, make sure you can march right. It served its purpose during wartime because all you got to do is point and shoot. You've got a group of people that you're just telling to shut up and color.
Well, they weren't garrison. Technically, they weren't garrison soldiers. Yeah. Whereas pre-war, it was all about the garrison attitude and look and everything. So they wanted you, like when a civilian drove on post, they wanted to see, manicured lawns and, shined boots and starched uniforms and haircuts. And
I remember bringing my father to Fort Hood. It was right before we deployed, so early 2000s, probably 01, 02. And I think one of the first comments he made, because he was an MP, he's security force in the Air Force during Vietnam, and he was in Thailand. But they had the metal helmets, they had the the uniforms that were super crisp, right? OD green. And then I just saw an old video that my parents had when my wife and I went to go visit him in Arizona a couple of weeks ago, and it showed his change of command when he was a captain. And same thing, metal helmets for the MPs with the red and the white, and said the MP on the side, but they look absolutely amazing. So he shows up in 01, and one of the first comments he made is like, man, they just don't look good at the gate. They're just leaning up against stuff. And
what's funny is, though, I think every branch kind of has their do good career fields where you want to see them when you their shops are at the gate, know, and then you have the people who are actually working at the end of the base, where they don't make it over there.
Well, the security force, and once again, correct me if I'm wrong, I've gone onto Air Force bases and they look amazing. The black berets and the uniforms are looking good. I don't know if it's changed.
Well, security forces, this is my own personal opinion, and it's my bias, because security forces used to put me on my face on the flight line because they could, because they're bored. And they don't have a job to do. They just need to be present for a long period of time.
Wait, they put you in a what? They did what?
Security forces that manage the flight line. So their entire job is to manage the assets on the flight line. And so anybody on the flight line could be asked to look at their credentials, even though they know that you work on these planes. So if you don't, they'll if your line badge that shows all your security clearance to be able to do that job isn't showing in the way that if you glance at it, that gives them enough reason to literally point their gun at you and put you on your face so that they can get your line badge from you. So you literally have all your tools about to go load a bomb, and you have to just lay down on the ground while this 19-year-old who is bored fucks with you.
Yeah,
sounds like TSA agencies.
The worst ones. That's what they do when they get out. Actually, they work
get
for
your
TSA.
hand off my ass, Deborah.
Yeah. The specialist MP that pulls over the captain or the colonel.
Oh yeah. It's and so my son being an MP in the Marines, and then having heard some of the stories, the wartime mission for MPs in the Army is completely different than a wartime mission for the Marines. And in fact, and somebody will probably correct me on this one, there really isn't a wartime mission for the Marines. So a lot of it is, the base security, asset security. He's doing some cool stuff there and by the Pentagon, right? But they look great. You get on the post and they look absolutely amazing. One of the other reasons why the Marines didn't have to do any recruiting efforts, because people would look at the Marines and go, they look amazing. I went to their graduation and it was absolutely stunning.
Yeah, ceremonial.
Yeah.
Their uniform. They sell you on the whole uniform. You look at the pictures, you look at the commercials, it's sharp. And then the Army was doing really well in the 80s in terms of the be all you can be motto. They had some really cool commercials during that time frame, and then it fell flat.
They went to Army of One.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like
they went to Army of
Army
One.
Strong.
Army Strong.
Yeah. You know what the one stood for, though?
No.
What's O is officer, N is non-commissioned
And then
officer,
enlisted.
E is enlisted.
Yeah. Oh, that's right before they
Army
did
of
the year
One.
of the non-commissioned officer, like in 2008.
And then we're trying to get to, you know, bringing back the whole squad aspect of things, and the squad is your family, and emphasis on the squad. And it was just, you know,
that was something that was
down.
interesting for me, my transition, where I was so used to like knowing so much about my coworkers' lives, like their finances, like about their marriage. And then when I got out, I would think like, oh, I need to know these things about my coworkers. And they're like,
you
why
can't do
are
that.
you?
HR will be on top of you.
Yeah, they're like, why are you
said that a
asking me?
couple times.
Yeah. But I didn't
But I find
realize-
myself in that situation oversharing, like because you're just used to doing it.
Yeah.
You're like, because your buddy knows everything about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I get it. Like it's the same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's once you're used to it, it feels good because you feel closer and you're sharing something. But yeah, I wouldn't go to EY and start talking about my shoe size and my pant size. So, but yeah, so the recruiting, back to recruiting. So the recruiting was a little bit different back then. And while I wasn't part of the recruiting effort in the early to mid 2000s, you could definitely see, I don't want to shit on people and say the quality wasn't there, but the quality wasn't there. And there was a rubric to that.
I was a GWAT baby. Like I was part of that.
Yeah.
To be completely the lower quality of swath of the American public that went into the military. Yeah. I filled out everything that my recruiter asked me to fill out about, you know, do you have any issues with this, or did you ever do this type of thing?
Yeah.
And then I was completely truthful because I was at a time in my life where I thought I needed to be really truthful, and I slid it across the table to him, and he read it and said, thank you. And then he slid me another packet and said that none of that stuff in that packet needs to make it to that packet.
Yeah, that was good practice.
Yeah, that was it.
That's
Was
not like the practice as
yeah, it was like,
Was that with a pencil?
Yeah.
that way, what, you know, that one never. He literally like he's like, thank you, but he took it from me and slid me another one.
I just want to see what your handwriting looks like. It's good.
He's like, I want to make sure that GT score was real. So yeah, you can write, but go ahead.
3 hours into the second set of forms, I just want to go home. So yeah,
but that was the kind of stuff they put, and I'm sure it was way worse.
Yeah.
For other people, I'm sure there were way more measures to get people.
I had to do recruiting assistance a couple of times, get extra leave because I could not get leave approved. And so I did recruiting assistance in Savannah, Georgia. And that was intense, like what the actual quotas were that they're looking for. Yeah. I didn't know it was that blatantly obvious. And I was just young, dumb, and enlisted at that point, thinking like, we're all doing this patriotically. And I was like, no, that's not the case.
At the time that I joined, like there were recruiters that were killing themselves because they were working long.
That started well before
long days. But like after the surge and the gear up to 2008, 2009 in Afghanistan, those dudes were working 18, 20 hour
parents
days.
didn't have any idea that I was up, probably got 3 hours worth of sleep, 7 days a week, and driving their kid an hour and a half to go down to the MEPS to put them off. Well, first off, they go down for an ASVAB, where if I was really good as a recruiter, I could send them down there and do a slam dunk. They'd take the test and the ASVAB. They'd stay over in the hotel overnight. I'd keep them there. I'd sell them that, let's do it this way. It's a hell of a lot easier.
I did.
And then physical that morning, and then see the guidance counselor right after that. What'd you say?
That was me.
That was you.
Yeah, except my dad. We went down there and did the whole MEPS thing, and
MEPS was just like a crazy experience, though. Like I remember being there, just like
it was cattle-esque. When I was like, that was during wartime.
So
it was
what happened
a ton of people there.
What about the interrogator guy? Usually there was a guy at MEPS that set you down and talk to you about, like, did you lie or do anything on this?
I didn't get that, dude.
You didn't get that?
No.
See,
I got the guy that saw the tunnel, you know what I mean? The other guy that saw the front. Like that's what I got.
Yeah, no, that's what
I had to duck walk naked. That's about
the
it.
Weird doctor that wanted to touch me in places that I wasn't used to. I didn't like that.
He was 4 days older than Jesus,
I
too.
need you to drop your pants, bend over.
Yeah.
No, we don't do that around here. No. I haven't signed a line yet.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. No, it was weird. So, yes, MEPS was scary.
MEPS was...
And
I couldn't
just,
imagine being a female in MEPS because it was
I remember sitting
intense
just in my little chair And I was just looking down the entire time. Like, I did not want to look at anybody straight in the eye.
And everyone was a dick there, whether they were a civilian or a green suiter or like a Navy dude.
Now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can. Yes.
Yeah, I completely understand why. But
everybody was going to be special forces.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah. It's
How many people in here knew that you actually swore in twice, and the only one that really counted was the second one?
I did.
I did.
The first one was into the reserve, but technically not.
Yeah.
The second one was the real one.
Yeah.
Which one is the real one?
The one before you actually get on the bus or the plane to go to your.
I don't remember swearing in the first time.
You've got the first one that they do like
delayed entry. You go into delayed entry. So
you decided
whether that was a day, a week, a month, 2 months.
I never
get a whole
got
bunch of people together with the same T-shirts on. They'd swear them in, but then you get.
So you typically go down like we were just talking about. You take the ASVAB, you take the physical, you talk to the guidance counselor, you get all excited about this job because they show you a film or whatever, and they tell you all this glamorous stuff, and then you go down the hallway and you swear in.
Yeah.
You probably don't remember that one because
I remember swearing in the day I left.
Yeah.
That's the only one I remember swearing in it.
I've got Kai's. I got pictures of Kai's swearing in. It was nice in there. I don't know where he went, but it was nice. It wasn't where I went through.
Where'd you go through maps at?
I went through Montgomery, Alabama.
The Gump, huh?
Yeah.
That was Phoenix,
is it
Arizona.
Gunner?
I went through Phoenix.
Is it Gunner
Yeah.
Air Force Base? Does that sound familiar?
Gunner Air Force Base.
In Mobile?
In Montgomery?
Oh, I
No,
don't
I forget what it's called, but it's not that.
Yeah, I can't
on
remember
bases.
either. Anyway, wherever I went, it was not good.
I went to Atlanta Maps, and it was.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I went there to get my retiree ID card, and I was packing.
And they transpoed me from Atlanta Maps to Fort Knox.
Oh.
They what?
The bus, or a van.
No way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. Me and like six.
They did the cheap way. They were
six. They were trying to get dudes there, any means necessary. Like I feel like my experience might have been a little bit different than y'all's.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's
a little bit.
It was quick. Like once the correct paperwork made it.
Yeah.
And he was certain I wasn't going to make a clown of him at MEPS. Yeah. I was on like the first thing steaming to Fort Knox. Like
once his packet of lies was turned in.
Yeah. It was, I don't know. I want to know, like, from the listeners or the viewers out there, if anybody else had this same kind of similar experience, like from point A to point B really quick in that time frame.
I did delayed entry. I signed in and I joined in May because that's right after I failed my second semester of college, and I went in September.
I did 9 months. I was in high school.
Yeah.
I was a high school senior.
Oh, wow.
I got you right off the
17.
Yeah.
Dumb.
Got them. But see, that's how the recruiting efforts were.
Yeah.
That's how the training went for recruiters. And so I think that bringing us back onto this track of recruiting and the woes, I think the Army tries to catch up to society. And in doing so, they're a little bit behind.
Don't they have to, though?
Yeah.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
Is in order to, keep up with the Joneses or whatever society's doing, if you're going to be relevant, you got to be able to, like the transition to social media. Recruiters getting on Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever.
They're not reaching anybody, but they're on there.
It took a while. It took a while to do it. And I've talked to some recruiters recently where I'm in the ForceCom headquarters, and we have all the 79, the retention folks there, and they talk about the different techniques that they use. Mm-hmm. You have recruiters that have two different Facebooks. One's their personal, and then one is, Staff Sergeant Jarvis.
Yeah.
I've seen a female recruiter had a TikTok, and she's out there just dancing her tail off. Like, that's what we're doing is dancing to bring soldiers in. Then that's what you got to do.
Dancing to win hearts and minds.
Mm-hmm. I would not have been successful, I don't think.
So what person is actually going to watch a TikTok and social media? I just got to know the stats on this.
But that's all the young people are on now.
Mm-hmm. So, but is that really?
It's how the commercial gets them. It's how they get the be all you can be commercial. Is through TikTok.
Phone calls aren't working.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember those same time periods where you pick up the phone, phones weren't working, and all that kind of stuff. So I can think of it more of like it was hard as hell to sell somebody and understand. You're not selling a car. You're not selling anything tangible. You're selling somebody on giving up their life and doing something they're not even sure they want to do or whatever, unless they're like really, motivated, and most aren't. So you really have to put together that package.
Yeah.
How is a social influencer really being able to do that? They're probably dancing their ass off, but I can't imagine they're getting too many enlistments because of it.
I would think that person already wants to join and they're just kind of shopping for the recruiter they want to join with.
Maybe that's what it is, because selling is
a relationship.
90% you and 10% product
It's a little
knowledge.
MLM or multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
I'll go out on a limb. Social media right now sells everything. I've seen the evolution of social media where before it was purely entertainment, but then all of a sudden you've got all these sponsored ads.
But even before that,
right?
it was so like journalistic. Like social media used to be like almost blog format where I'm like sharing about myself to people that I don't visually see every day.
And then Instagram pops up, and now we're sharing photos.
Yeah.
I mean, that was strictly a
It was supposed to be an
photography
instant.
stuff.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Instagram, meaning something that's like instant right now. What are you doing type of thing. And then it ended up being
morphed.
Yeah.
Because you got to meet the needs of the people, and we're just a very voyeuristic society. And we love to see what other people are doing because we want to compare. Right?
But you want
Comparison's the
MySpace
killer of
back is
joy.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, because, it was a struggle trying to keep my top 8 without hurting people's
And
keeping
keeping up with HTML coding.
Yeah,
That's right.
I was getting good at that.
Yeah.
But
Different music every week.
every week. But to answer your question, to your point, I can see where you would think it'd be difficult, but if we have media or social media influencers that have the capability of selling a product just based off of how they present it and the things that they're doing. I've seen so many people talk about TikTok made me buy it. There's people out there that are making a living, putting food on the table just by presenting an object, sponsoring it, and then getting people to understand why it's relevant and why it's good.
Yeah.
Well, okay, the Army decided that we're going to do that with our recruiting, and they were seeing the numbers. That's how you capture the attention. So from recruiting standpoint for you, you'd have to walk into a high school physically. You'd have to get permission from the school to go in. Then you have to, fight for the time, sell yourself to the adults, and then you can talk to the kids. Social media, you've just taken the adults completely out of the picture.
And you didn't have to take your stuff to the dry cleaners to go into the.
And now I'm redirect to my audience.
Yes.
There is no filtering. And
Well, the thing that I've seen the recruiters that are most successful is they don't actually do any like recruiting tactics. They show how great their life is because they're in.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've seen that. Standard of life. This is what the Army looks like.
But I mean, that also created this whole new military veteran influencer that like came about in 2018. All of a sudden, like it was cool. Cause I remember I wasn't allowed to post ever in my uniform. Like it was like in my squadron. I knew I wasn't allowed to do that.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden people were doing it. And I was like, are we all part of the same regulations or not?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
And to that point, the recruiters were doing well, but now you have to combat the what do you say the military influencers, right? So before they didn't have to combat that, and now you have military influencers that use day-to-day things that are happening in the Army.
The Army had to let it up though, because all they had were negative shadow accounts. Correct. U.S. Army, what the fuck moments. Yeah. Hey, this unit went to JRTC and they lost late.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they're still looking for nods. We used to that was what you would do. If you had a buddy on rotation, you'd check on that
was the standard of comparison.
Their unit. Yeah. It was how they did on you.
As a first sergeant, we would look through social media, and so we knew what not to do. And so from the recruiting standpoint, now you're combating that. So you're trying to show this lifestyle, like you were saying, but now you're fighting USA what the fuck moments. Like, oh man, I just put something out that was sexy, and now they just put something out that makes us look stupid.
Yeah.
So that was it's an internal battle. Like you're trying to get people to come in.
It goes with that whole trend, like good press or bad press is good press kind of thing. It still makes serving relevant.
Yeah, it can be. It all depends on the message.
Might be somebody that's actually watching WTF and joining the Army or joining the military.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, that's cool. I want to do what those guys
There's
do.
always those. There's always those people.
Yeah.
Modern jackass.
Yeah.
But then you got to wonder, what is that demographic? Who are you attracting?
People
with
willing
that?
to die.
Yeah. So I mean,
Shouldn't everybody that joins the military be willing to die? Aren't you saying that?
Well, I mean, we talked about this the first time I came in. My origin story of the Army was not sexy.
Yeah.
I was failing out of college. I wasn't doing good at the house. My parents weren't proud of me. And so in my mind, I was thinking, how do I redeem myself? Why don't I do something that all of my family members have done since way back when? Hey, I'm going to join the Army, but I did it with the 2-year enlistment and the college bonus. So there was a little bit of selfishness in that as well. It just happened to be that once I got in, I was like, man, I kind of like it here. Mm-hmm. And then my motivation changed. It has to change.
Yeah.
If you stay in for an extended period of time, you can't just stay in for the college money.
Yeah.
You're not staying in for the money.
No.
I'm banking over here. No, you're not.
No, you're not. You qualify for WIC.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
Yeah. Oh, we got free cheese today. I mean,
sweet milk. Awesome.
I was delivering pizza as a sergeant in Fort Hood. You know, just to, I'm not going to say to make ends meet, but to live a lifestyle that we wanted to live on top of just the status quo, right? So, but yeah, in order to sell the military, everything that we've been doing, everything that I've seen as a first sergeant, sergeant major has been these bonuses. How do we retain the people that we already have? And how do we get the people in? And then you're fighting the whole and get the quality of persons that we want. So you're combating a bunch of stuff. And then going right back to social media influencers showed that you don't have to have a formal education, institutional learning to make a bunch of money. Just show your ass. I mean, not literally. Yeah. Well, some people.
There's,
just go out there and do what you need to do. I mean, we joke around, and I say we, my friends, I've even mentioned to my wife, I was like, I'm going to start selling feet pics. I saw somebody talk about how they made like $50,000 last month selling feet pics. I was like, I mean, they look like monkey hands, but somebody's going to like it, right? So you're combating all that. So the old school method of, going to high school, going to college,
winning hearts,
it's not there anymore. And as we start to progress as a society, people are starting to realize we're getting back into the trades. You don't.
I just
have to
don't
be
think young people
grad.
are dumb anymore.
They're not.
You can't fool them. Mm-hmm. And also, like, young men aren't enrolling in college anymore. Mostly, it's younger women, and so I think it gives a good opportunity to join for young men.
That's a good recruiting point.
Yeah.
The question is that a point that's being made? And
well, they know that stat. They know their target.
Well, I think too, though, aren't we seeing a shift? Most families back in the day were started off with, let's call it the 50s and 60s time frame. You had more farmers predominantly, so you had families of size of 6 to 12, plus, because they had to work the field. That's what it was all about, and everything is to have a family. Cook in the kitchen, get the food from out in the garden, and raise the cattle and all of that kind of stuff, and come in. Transition, that got smaller when they came off the farm, so they started having families of more like 3 to 5, or 3 to 6. Today, it's 1 or 2,
if even.
If you can afford that.
Yeah, and that's a whole other ball of wax, isn't it? Yeah.
So we're having a smaller market that we can actually attack then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So smarter, smaller, more trade than college educated.
Yeah.
There's
less trade, but also doesn't want to go to college.
Well, that's true.
Because I'm in a current working industry now that is begging for young people to join it all across all construction jobs. So it used to be you go to the Army to learn to be a plumber or whatever, you get something out of it. But then you spend a 20-year war, and I learned how to do reconnaissance. Who's hiring reconnaissance dudes?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
And it's awesome. But that's what I'm saying though, is like they're not going to college, but they're also not learning how to use a hammer or a screwdriver, and they're not becoming mechanics or plumbers or electricians.
Well, I mean, the bigger overarching thing that, like, especially young men are looking for is status. Like, they're looking for something like a seat at the table of something to like get something else in the world. Because you don't give young men anything. You wait for young men to prove themselves, and then you give them something.
Yeah. No, good point. I mean, I don't have anything to that. But that's the whole basis of the military.
But because of different social economic things, there's less actual at the table for them to grab, because there's bigger people who are hoarding more of the availability of resources. So I personally have seen that too. The degradation of men, especially when it comes to like ego, is they're judged by what they can provide and how they can protect. But if they don't, if a bunch of men are fighting for a little bit of resources, I think that also contributes to poor mental health.
Yeah. No, it's because you're not living up to the expectation of what.
Yeah. And you're looking at 2 generations before you. They're able to easily, and they're probably less equipped than you.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, I mean, you think about whether it was good or bad. I mean, you know, you were taught how to take apart a car. You know, you were taught how to change your engine oil. Even, you know, women and stuff, you know, it was one of those things that when you started just having girls, you still try to teach them, hey, the basics, change a tire, change the oil, do basic things. Survivability, right? We're starting to get back to that, I think, a little bit more in society. People are starting to get back more to the roots because they're concerned about the rising prices across, you know, and the shortage of items, which is causing the rising prices. COVID put a lot of reality check, I think, into people where they started realizing, all right, my bubble needs to get a little bit smaller and I need to quit worrying about those, what other people think about and stuff like that, and start focusing on, you know, getting back to farm raised food and healthy living and stuff that self-sustainability. And then you have that side of it. And then you have the total polar opposite, which are the social media people that we were talking about before. They want the relaxed lifestyle, but they want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's instant gratification and then abundance. Like it's just you know, we overdo things. I always said we're a fast food nation. We want everything right here, right now. And then, oh, by the way, we're going to add some, you know, quality expectations.
We want to supersize it too.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we've all been there.
But I do think that's the DoD selling point, is we can give you these things.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's where they brought
and that's where the lie comes in.
Shelter, food.
Yeah, no one gets rich in the military.
No.
But you have some safety from the real world.
There's stability.
Yeah.
There is some mental safety there.
To me, if you want to solve the recruiting crisis, you quit taxing active duty military. They don't pay federal or state income tax.
Well, see, some people listening to this who are civilians may not understand that you do get taxed. So how many times have you had a conversation? I don't know if you have, but I've had several conversations with individuals that said, wait, the military gets taxed? And it'd be like, yeah, we get paid from the tax dollars, but yet then we're taxed on those dollars that we earn.
Yeah.
Some people think we get that free. Like, you know, you don't have to pay taxes because you're in the military.
And then depending on the state you're in, when you retire or medically retired or whatever, you're still paying taxes.
Yeah. Well, I was watching a meme last night, I think it was, and it was like, no, it was this morning. It was like, you pay taxes, you know, on your house. You pay taxes for the roads. You pay taxes on your income. You pay death taxes when you die. You pay tax, and it was just like everything is taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed. There's never you get your income, you get taxed on. Then you go buy something, you get taxed on it. You know, it's a constant.
It's exponential.
Yeah. And so now where are all these dollars going is a totally another podcast episode. But if you're thinking it's coming into the military, you're sadly mistaken. Everybody always sees the chart where, you know, they have all these funds that are going from the government and they think it goes to the military. You don't know, it goes to like Lockheed and these other corporations that are making something that we'll probably never see.
That is the military industrial complex. That's why it's a $50 hammer and not a 25-cent hammer.
So when I got put on the F-35 program, I got put on the first demo team for the F-35 program, which is like a select few people. It's not what they call, they had to be careful and not call it an air show team because of the funding of the F-35 program at the time.
It changes the line of accounting.
Yes. And so anyways, that was like my goal to like at least do something with the demo team before I got out. So I got to do a flyover at the Sugar Bowl at TCU. And so then we got to sit in like the suite area.
Yeah.
And all the Lockheed executives were there and their spouses and family members. And I hadn't actually met real wealth into that moment to where it felt icky. Like they were literally rubbing my head like a puppy, like as if they owned me.
That's wild.
It was so bizarre.
We should take you to an SEC football game.
Yeah.
That privilege is everywhere. You'll get pet like a dog.
That is like
a tailgate.
Yeah, real.
When you were in the military? Thanks for your service.
Yes.
Like they didn't even feel like human.
No.
It was very weird.
Yeah, they put themselves on a pedestal. There's a lot of power with that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the changes that they've made in society alone by their bright ideas and their money. Mm-hmm. So that just gives you this overinflated self-worth.
What do we see now, though, with the recent news on registration? They're now going to start requiring women
to register for
it looks like it's going to go
selective
that
service.
Yeah. To register for the selective service, and a lot are reading into that, much like they always have. But because we have a challenging force, we haven't met our recruiting numbers in years. The belief is we're going to institute the draft back again. What do you guys think? Be sure to return back for part 2 of the recruiting discussion with the team from Mentors4mil Military.